Chassidic Parashat of Matot and Masei commitment of promises. The power and prudence of binding words promises shape who we are. They are the small contracts of everyday life that transform intention into obligation, strengthen resolve, and build trust between people. In the Jewish legal and ethical tradition, this simple fact is given clear and repeated emphasis. Words uttered in commitment can become absolute, and the act of vowing is never to be treated lightly. Two kinds of binding speech, the Torah and classical sources, distinguish two formal categories of committed speech. A neder alters the status of an object or act by declaring something forbidden or dedicated. The speaker changes how he or she relates to that thing. A shavua, by contrast, binds the person's own behavior, what he or she will or will not do. The distinction matters practically and morally. A neder defines the status of external things, while a shavua defines personal responsibility. Both forms create real obligation. Whether one is pledging an offering, refraining from a permitted pleasure, or swearing to fulfill a duty, the commitment becomes part of the moral and communal order. That is why traditional teaching repeatedly warns, be careful what your mouth utters. Promises as discipline and their dangerous vows can be a tool for shaping character and strengthening will. For many people, the public or formal nature of a vow provides the extra ballast needed to overcome weakness, establish healthy limits, or recommit to an ethical course. Approached deliberately, vows can function as a disciplined form of self-education, adding voluntary restrictions within permitted life to help avoid the border of prohibition. But promises can also be dangerous when made impulsively, in anger, or without sober assessment. A hasty commitment can bind a person to an outcome they cannot, or should not, deliver. Saying "I swear," "I promise," or "I guarantee" as rhetorical flourish cheapens the word's force and erodes trust. The sages therefore advise that it is better not to promise than to promise and fail. Prudence before pledging the obligation to fulfill one's vows does not disappear simply because circumstances change. Unexpected difficulties do not automatically absolve a person from a spoken commitment. For precisely this reason, the tradition builds procedural safeguards. If material or unforeseen reasons make fulfillment impossible, the vow may be addressed to a rabbinical court of 3 qualified scholars, who can examine the case and, if warranted, annul the vow. This institutional mechanism prevents promises from becoming instruments of injustice and allows careful adjudication when real constraints arise. There is also a moral rule against making vows in anger or haste. When one speaks from an unbalanced inner state, provoked by conflict, pain, or passion, the resulting commitment is unlikely to reflect careful judgment. In the case of married women, the Torah establishes a particular safeguard. Certain vows made by a wife may be subject to annulment by her husband if he intervenes promptly. Traditional commentaries interpret this provision not as an act of simple inequality, but as a protective measure intended to preserve family harmony and to prevent precipitous decisions made in emotional moments from having permanent and disruptive consequences. At the same time, the law does not license a husband to stifle all serious decisions by his wife. The balance aims at protecting domestic peace while preserving a space for responsible autonomy. Living within the permitted and learning restraint, an important practical teaching arising from the law of vows, is the value of practicing within the permitted. The Torah draws a clear line between what is permitted and what is forbidden. To live a full religious life is to thrive within that space. But for those who discover they are prone to overstep or be tempted by the margins, it can be wise to adopt voluntary restraints, modest self-imposed rules that make it easier to refuse what is forbidden when tested. In effect, adding lawful guardrails strengthens moral agency and lessens the likelihood of regrettable transgression. Promises and the social fabric, the social function of honoring one's word is fundamental. A community where words are reliable can coordinate life, commerce, and social responsibility. A community where promises are casually broken cannot. Respect for the word, speaking deliberately, and keeping commitments is a hallmark of trustworthiness. That trust has theological resonance in the Jewish tradition as well, Covenantal promises and divine assurances give a national and religious dimension to the idea that language, when used faithfully, sustains relationships and hope. On retribution and the architecture of justice, the Torah's legal structures sometimes startle modern readers. Laws of retribution and the provision of sanctuary cities for unintentional killers have been variously interpreted and misunderstood. Seen superficially, provisions that allow a victim's relatives certain powers might appear to endorse private vengeance. But a closer reading shows a different aim. The legal framework is designed to channel conflict toward orderly adjudication and to deter flight and lawlessness. By establishing consequences that made it perilous for a violent offender to remain at large, and by offering refuge and formal process through cities of refuge and courts, the system encouraged alleged perpetrators to submit to judicial examination rather than hide from justice. In this way, the law protected victims' families while also creating institutional incentives for accountability, due process, and the preservation of social order. Practical takeaways: think before you speak, weigh your capacity and the consequences before making a promise. Avoid vows made in anger or haste. Emotional states often produce commitments one cannot or should not keep. Use vows sparingly as tools of self-discipline. Voluntary limits can be constructive when chosen deliberately. If circumstances change, seek adjudication. Communal and legal mechanisms exist to evaluate, and if appropriate, annul promises made under undue pressure or changed conditions. Value the word. Personal and communal life depend on the reliability of speech. Cultivating a culture of faithful speech strengthens trust, cooperation, and dignity. Conclusion: promises are more than rhetorical flourishes. In Jewish moral and legal thought, they are acts that bind conscience, community, and conduct. The tradition recognizes both their constructive power and their potential to harm. It therefore calls for prudence, deliberation, and institutional care. Vow only after careful thought, avoid rash commitments, and respect the processes that can repair or resolve impossible obligations. When words are treated with reverence and responsibility, they become a foundation for ethical life and communal trust. Parashat Matot, the sacred commitment of vows and the dwelling of the soul in the intricate tapestry of Jewish tradition, Parashat Matot emerges as a profound lesson on the sanctity of vows and the moral imperative to uphold one's commitments. Within this parasha, the Torah provides us with a foundational understanding of the weight of our words and the spiritual ramifications intrinsic to our oaths. It teaches, if a person will make a vow to Hashem or an oath to obligate himself in something, he must not break his word. He must fulfill that which he had vowed or sworn to do. These words resonate deeply within the Jewish psyche, emphasizing not only the significance of our promises but also the broader implications of living a life that is aligned with one's values and spiritual aspirations. The concept of a vow or neder transcends mere verbal commitment. It embodies a covenant between the individual and the divine, a sacred agreement that shapes our spiritual identity and moral character. The sages of blessed memory elucidate this notion further, explaining that when an individual enters into an agreement, such as renting property for an unspecified duration, it is traditionally understood as a commitment of 30 days. This temporal framework becomes a vital lens through which we can explore the deeper implications of our vows and the structures we create within our lives. By understanding the significance of this time frame, we can better appreciate the transformative potential of our commitments. Our Elimelech of Lizensk, a luminary in the realm of Hasidic thought, offers a captivating interpretation of the term neder. He posits that it is etymologically connected to daira, meaning dwelling. To yeder neder, therefore, signifies not merely the act of making a vow, but the creation of a sacred dwelling place for one's soul. This perspective invites us to consider our vows as more than obligations. They are, in essence, an act of spirituality that prepares a space within us for the divine essence that resides in each Jew, a chelek Elokai mimal, a piece of the divine that is intrinsically holy. This interpretation is particularly poignant when we recognize that every individual possesses a unique spark of divinity, a direct connection to the infinite. To create a dwelling for our daily soul is to cultivate an environment in which this divine essence can thrive. This act of spiritual construction requires us to engage in self-reflection and the pursuit of personal growth. Our commitments become the building blocks of this dwelling, as each vow we uphold reinforces our relationship with the divine and strengthens our spiritual foundation. The act of preparing this dwelling space for our daily soul is not a trivial endeavor. It requires intention, dedication, and a conscious effort towards growth and spiritual elevation. The transformative process begins with the understanding that each vow and commitment is a step toward creating a sanctuary for the divine presence within us. Our Elimelech suggests that this preparation is akin to a 30-day period of self-reflection and spiritual work, a time during which we engage in the study of Torah and the practice of Teshuvah. This period of preparation is essential, as it allows us to cleanse ourselves of past transgressions and to align our intentions with our actions. This theme finds its expression in the Jewish tradition of fasting on the day before Rosh Chodesh, the new month. This practice symbolizes the commencement of a 30-day journey of spiritual renewal and rededication to the service of Hashem. Each new month presents an opportunity for reflection and recommitment as we consider the ways in which we can elevate our spiritual lives. While the specific act of fasting may not resonate with every individual, the underlying intent remains universally applicable: to cultivate a heightened awareness of our spiritual responsibilities and to create a meaningful connection with the divine. In lieu of fasting, many individuals choose to embrace a Tanis Dibur, a fast of speech, or engage in the recitation of the Book of Psalms, each finding their unique pathway to preparation. Such practices serve as reminders of the power of words and the significance of our speech in shaping our reality. What emerges from this diversity of practice is a rich tapestry of individual expressions of faith, each contributing to the collective spiritual elevation of the community. The essence of Parashat Matot thus transcends the confines of mere obligation. It invites us to explore the depths of our commitments and the sacred spaces we create within ourselves. Moreover, the teachings of Parashat Matot encourage us to contemplate the broader implications of our vows beyond our personal lives. The commitments we make can extend to our relationships with others, our communities, and our responsibilities to the world around us. Each promise we uphold not only shapes our spiritual journey, but also influences those we encounter along the way. In this sense, our vows become vehicles for fostering love, compassion, and connection, allowing us to contribute positively to the world and to inspire others in their own spiritual pursuits. In conclusion, as we delve into the teachings of Parashat Matot, we are reminded of the profound impact our vows have on our spiritual lives. Each commitment we make is not just a declaration of intent, but an invitation to create a dwelling for the divine within our souls. Through the practice of Torah study, teshuvah, and mindful engagement with our spiritual responsibilities, we prepare ourselves to become vessels of holiness. May our efforts to honor our vows and commitments serve as a testament to our dedication to a life filled with meaning, purpose, and an ever-deepening connection to the divine. In this sacred journey, we transform our lives into a true dwelling place for Jidlinus, illuminating the world around us with the light of our commitment. As we embrace the teachings of Parashat Matot, let us strive to uphold our vows with sincerity and integrity, allowing our lives to reflect the holiness that resides within us all. Parashat Masei, a journey of transformation, reflection, and redemption in the vast and intricate landscape of Jewish tradition, Parashat Masei occupies a particularly significant and multifaceted role. As the culmination of the Book of Numbers, this parasha meticulously chronicles the myriad stops, 42 distinct stations, experienced by the children of Israel during their long and arduous journey through the wilderness. This journey spanned an arduous 40 years, serving not merely as a historical narrative, but as a deep and reflective commentary on spiritual development, resilience, and the quest for redemption. The Torah opens with the words, "These are the stations of the journeys of the children of Israel, the ones who went out of Egypt under the leadership of Moshe and Aaron." This introduction encapsulates the essence of the Jewish people's experience, highlighting a journey marked by divine guidance, profound trials, and the ultimate pursuit of purpose. The meticulous enumeration of these stations in the Torah is filled with layers of significance and meaning. Each stop along the way is not just a geographical marker, but a spiritual milestone, a pivotal point in the journey toward holiness and self-discovery. The Or HaChem HaKodesh, a revered commentator, expounds on this notion by suggesting that each journey undertaken by Klal Yisrael was divinely orchestrated, designed to weaken the powers that oppose holiness in the world. In a universe where spiritual forces are constantly at play, the trek through the desert becomes a metaphor for the internal struggles every individual faces on their path. Each of the 42 stations represents a unique challenge or opportunity for spiritual growth, illustrating the concept that divine timing is both intricate and purposeful. The varied durations of the Israelites' stays at each station, some lasting a year while others were fleeting, lasting only a few hours, speak to the individualized nature of their spiritual tasks. Each station held specific lessons and experiences that were essential for their transformation as a people. This notion of gathering lost sparks resonates deeply with the teachings of Kabbalah, which elaborate on the divine sparks of holiness that became fragmented during the process of creation. The journey through the desert was not solely about reaching the promised land. It was also about healing the world and restoring the divine balance. Each pause along the way provided the Israelites with an opportunity to refine their souls, gathering the scattered sparks of Kedusha, holiness that had been dispersed throughout the world. The desert, with all its desolation and challenge, emerged as a crucible for spiritual growth, compelling the children of Israel to confront their fears and shortcomings. Rabbanu Bakkai, in his insightful commentary, further enhances the narrative of Masei by suggesting a prophetic dimension. He posits that the account of the journeys serves as a harbinger of the future redemption of the Jewish people. The cyclical nature of Jewish history indicates that just as the Israelites traversed the desert after their exodus from Egypt, they will undertake a similar journey in the future, guided and sustained by Hashem. This prophetic vision is imbued with the assurance that the final gathering of sparks of holiness will culminate in a universal recognition of divine unity, where the whole world will know that Hashem is Echad. The connection between their 49 days of preparation leading up to the giving of the Torah and the 50 journeys serves as a poignant reminder of the potential for transformation inherent within every soul. Just as the Israelites ascended from the depths of despair to the heights of revelation at Mount Sinai, we too are reminded that our own journeys can lead us towards spiritual heights if we embrace growth and self-discovery. The structure of Masei, beginning with Eleh and concluding with Vila, further emphasizes this duality. The term Eleh signifies a limitation. These are the journeys that were. Conversely, Vila serves to expand upon what we already know, referring to the journeys that will be, the journeys that await us at the conclusion of our current exile. This literary device speaks profoundly to the Jewish experience, suggesting that our past informs our future, and that every journey taken in the wilderness is a step toward a promised land, both in the literal and metaphorical sense. The narrative of Masei also serves as a profound reflection on the nature of leadership and community. Moshe and Aaron, as the leaders of the Israelites, embody the qualities of guidance and responsibility. They are tasked not only with leading the people to their destination, but also with nurturing their spiritual growth along the way. The experience in the desert was not merely a physical passage, it was a formative period that shaped the identity of the Jewish people. The struggles, doubts, and triumphs encountered during this time laid the foundation for a strong, cohesive community united by shared experiences and trials. As we delve deeper into the experiences of the Israelites during their wanderings, we can draw parallels to our own lives. The challenges we face in our personal journeys can often feel overwhelming, reminiscent of the trials endured by the Israelites in the desert. Yet, the lessons of Masei remind us that we are not alone in our struggles. Just as the Israelites received divine guidance and sustenance throughout their journey, we too can find support and inspiration in our communities and spiritual practices. In a modern context, Parashat Masei encourages us to embrace our journeys, confront our Yetzer Hara, the inner adversary, and strive for spiritual growth, even amid adversity. Each setback can be viewed not as a failure, but as a necessary part of our development that leads us closer to our own promised lands. In this light, the parasha becomes a source of hope and resilience, urging us to recognize that our own struggles are integral to our personal and communal journeys. Moreover, the theme of remembrance plays a vital role in Parashat Masei. The act of recounting the journeys serves to instill a sense of identity and purpose within the Jewish people. By remembering where we have come from, our trials, tribulations, and triumphs, we cultivate a deeper understanding of our collective history and destiny. This remembrance is a powerful tool, allowing us to draw strength from our past as we navigate present challenges. In the wake of the destruction of the Second Temple and the subsequent exile, the importance of remembering our journeys becomes even more pronounced. The Jewish people have faced countless trials throughout history, yet the narratives of resilience and redemption continue to inspire hope and perseverance. This theme of remembrance is echoed in the rituals and practices that define Jewish life, reminding us that our history is not merely a series of events, but a sacred narrative that shapes our identity and connection to the divine. As we reflect on Parashat Masei, we cannot help but feel an overwhelming sense of richness in its teachings. The journeys of the children of Israel resonate through time, offering profound insights into the nature of spiritual growth, the struggle against internal and external adversities, and the ultimate promise of redemption. In contemplating the varied experiences of our ancestors, we are reminded that each station we encounter is not merely a pause in our journey, but an opportunity for transformation and elevation. In our modern lives, we face challenges that may seem daunting, reminiscent of the trials faced by the Israelites in the desert.